I really want to get into the idea and the understanding of if people believe that true love does exist. Now, I take a little bit of a quote from Lauryn Hill. It's not word for word because, again, that's Lauryn Hill. She's amazing. But, like, the fact is, love is really an incredible thing, and we just don't understand it like we should. And she was absolutely right when she said this. With a lot of us lately, it's kind of like, what do you do for me now? Right? Are you stimulating me right now? And if you aren't, then see you later. Goodbye. Like, I'm not stimulated by you, so I don't want to be around you. I don't want to be in a relationship with you. And real love really doesn't it doesn't work that way, right? It's difficult. It's hard to have because it requires so much, and I don't think we understand it. I think we're just so used to being in this like space where we can just come and go as we please, and we don't really want to put the work in to get it. And it's sad because that's one of the things that I think everybody truly wants. Everyone truly wants to just be in love and feel loved by their person all the time. And we've kind of misconstrued how that is supposed to look. Now, I'm a firm believer that real love is possible, but we never really understood how to get it. And I have a few ideas and a few concepts of why that is. And I'm here to kind of share it with you guys. So, for me, we assume that someone will come into our life and just give us real love. Like, we're just going to be handed it. This person is going to come in and they're going to do all the right things and say all the right things. And everything that they do is just going to like coincide with what we're looking for. And in all honesty, like, that makes absolutely no sense. That has never worked out in any aspect of our life. Think about throughout your entire life. You were never handed anything really in life. Never really handed anything. And if you were, you don't really appreciate the things that you were handed because there was no work required for it. There was no building. There was no story behind anything. It was just you woke up one day and someone gave you something. And love doesn't work that way. Like, someone can give you their heart and they can give you everything that, all their effort and all their energy and everything like that, but you're not going to appreciate it. So why should love be any different if everything else isn't the same? If you're looking at a job, if you get handed a job, you're not going to appreciate the job. You're going to think, well, they came to me and they gave me this, so I deserve that. Whereas, like, if you went to school and studied and busted your ass for it, went through an interview process, did the entry-level positions and the volunteer positions, you getting that job means more to you. And that's what I think love should really be like. It requires a lot of growth, not only in yourself, but together. You have to understand that, like, two lives are coming together, two ideas, two concepts, two different ways of thinking. And you now have to merge these together in a way that it's actually going to work and it's going to be productive. So you have to be able to support that person in a way that it promotes their growth. Interesting enough, if you look at a lot of couples that have been together for a very, very long time and have been able to make it work, they are opposites of each other. You have one person that'll be like extremely outgoing. You have another person who's going to be extremely reserved. One person likes to go out and have fun. The other person likes to make sure that home's taken care of. They work in tandem. And the reason for that is if you like going out and having fun and your partner likes going out and having fun just as much as you, no one else takes care of everything else. That's why love is a partnership. And true love gives you the ability to build that. If you're in a situation where you're with a person and they're not really moving the way that you're used to, you are attracted to them for a reason. And your attraction to them is based on the things that you don't see in yourself. So the person that you're going to be truly in love with is a person who's going to be very different from you, yet similar enough that you bond. And those differences are giving you both the opportunity to grow together. Now, if they make that space for you to grow together, then it's perfect. because they're giving you time to adjust. They're giving you room to grow. And as long as they see you progressing and things changing towards kind of more of an ideal that they're comfortable with, not that there should be just like you, but in an ideal that you're comfortable with, that person's going to stick around. So if you have somebody who really is willing to just sit there with you in the rough and say, I get it, you're trying to figure this stuff out, I'm here, but at the same time, like, I do require this too. And you're able to establish your boundaries in a relationship. If you're with a person who really and truly does love you, though they may not fully understand where you're coming from and don't completely understand why you think the way you think, they're willing to meet you at that middle ground. And they're willing to open themselves up to change. Not so much that they're going to change themselves and lose exactly who they are, but change enough that, like, they're showing that I'm willing to work with you here. I may not meet you all the way, but I'm willing to work with you and we're willing to come to this agreement here. You have to be able to be patient with the other person while they change and grow. And you both accept that change is going to be necessary. Everybody's going to go through changes in their life all the time. You're going to change, they're going to change. You're going to like things about each other and you're going to hate things about each other. And you're going to start to change kind of things that appeal to you and not so much change things that don't appeal to you. That's how it works. No one's going to change on their own. You can't force anybody to change for you. If you're in a situation where that partner is forcing you to try to change everything about yourself to suit their narrative, they're not really the person for you. Your change should be organic. Your change should be like, oh, I'm looking at this situation and I feel like this aspect of what this person brings to me is beneficial. So I'm willing to change towards that mantra because that's something that I believe in and that's a value that I like and I want to adopt into myself. True love only really exists when two people are coming together and they're saying, I appreciate what you add to my life and I like what you add to my life. And the other person feels the exact same way. So no matter what it is that you guys have to go through, whatever adjustments you have to go through, you're both standing there and saying, hey, listen, I want to find the middle ground. I want to find a resolution to where we can both achieve what we got to do. I'm willing to sacrifice. You're willing to sacrifice. I'm willing to go through the mud. You're willing to go through the mud because we see the benefit of this collectively. Now, you have to change your mentality of how you look at a relationship. And I'm going to give two examples of this. Example one, if you have kids, you truly understand what that is like because you don't really require much from your kids. And you understand that your kids are going to have to learn things. They're going to have to learn new behaviors. They have to learn new skills and everything like that. So they're going to be going through a process of discovery and development and change. And your kids will change on you. At every stage of their life, they're going to be a little bit more different than they were before. And we accept that. As a parent, you accept that. Like, yeah, my son is different now. He's not the same way he was when he was 5. He's 8 now and he's completely different. He's more outgoing, he's more this, he's more that. So we give that leeway with kids. But we don't necessarily give that leeway with a partner. And I think that's one of the things that we need to understand, that though this is a grown adult, they still have their own way of navigating their life. And they now also have to adjust to taking your life into consideration and how you're going to look at things and how you feel about things. They have to cater to you as well. Whereas like with your kids, you don't really have to, right? They are who they are and we accept them for what they are, but we're also going to guide them upon the path of life. So why do we do that with our kids and we don't do that with our partner? A relationship is a relationship. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a child, whether it's a parent, whether it's a spouse, it's a relationship. It's how you relate to another human being. And we put so much stress and so much emphasis on the relationship and make it so much dire, like it's rocket science. And at the end of the day, it's just honestly being able to relate to another human being. And can you do that? Now, the other thing that I think a lot of people need to understand and the way they need to look at this is This is like a job. It's going to require time. It's going to require effort. It's going to require you learning new skills. It's going to require you showing up and doing the things that you got to do. It's going to require you making mistakes and being corrected, and someone saying, hey, listen, you did this and I didn't really like how you did it, or it could have been done this way. It's all about improvement. If you have a job and your job requires you to go through trainings and requires you to go through tests and all these different things, a relationship is going to be similar. You're always learning. You're always going to try to get better and do better. And you're always going to try to improve. So if you're not looking at it that way, you're looking at it as, oh, I'm just going to come in and everything's going to be hunky-dory. No, you've got to put in the work. You've got to improve. You've got to develop. You've got to grow. And if you're not willing to do that, then in all honesty, I don't really see how you think that would work. Because if you went to your 9 to 5 and you didn't do the work required at your 9 to 5, you'd be fired. So why are we not looking at a relationship the same way? I think we think that, oh, because emotions are involved, that it doesn't have to be like that and it should be easy. But again, nothing in life comes easy, and everything in life comes with a cost. So we have to look at a relationship that way. It's supposed to challenge you. Now, the third thing that I think, honestly, like a lot of us get caught up on, and I will be doing an episode about this as well, is there will come a point where that relationship is gonna get boring. It's gonna get stale. It's gonna get to a point where you're like, I don't even know anymore. Like, I don't feel stimulated by this person. I don't feel like there's any progression in our relationship. This happens all the time. Do not think that you're going to have some magical relationship that'll just supersede this. This happens all the time. You get to a point where you talk to that person every day. You see this person all the time. You know so much about this person, or you perceive that you know so much about this person. And there's nothing that's really going to stimulate you unless you actually go out there and try to inject into that. It's going to happen. And a lot of the times too, it's not even that that person is no longer doing things to stimulate you, or that person is not like showing more of themselves. It's just you've come to a point where you've decided that you know who they are. And unless they come out and actively say, no, I'm different, or I'm this, or I'm that, you've already have your preconceived notions of what that person is and what that person's about, because you've put that person into the box. And that box is a box that you understand them as. How many times have we seen in a relationship that like the relationship dissolves and that person now becomes like even more attractive to you because you're not with them anymore, or you're in a place now where you guys can work together and you guys can communicate together, whereas like in the relationship you felt like you couldn't do that because you got to that stage, and I like to call this stage 4. Now, stage 4 of the relationship is where it's going to get hard, and it gets hard because it's a point of growth. Every single time you get to that stage where it starts to get boring and it starts to get stale and it starts to get redundant, it's because there's growth coming. There is an opportunity for growth at that point in time. And it's just a matter of if you're both going to do the things required for that growth or not. What I see a lot is like you'll get to this point in your relationship and one partner is going to say, oh, like this is boring. They don't take me out anymore. They don't do this. They don't do that. They don't do this anymore. They stop doing that things. But you never really said anything to your partner. You just expected them to know. Why I say this is a growth experience, because this is an opportunity for you to go to them and say, hey, listen, I really appreciated when we did this. And there may have been times where I didn't let you know, or maybe you feel like, you know, things are just getting the same or anything like that, but let's try something different. And that's a key term. Let's try something different. Not, you don't take me out, you don't do this with me, you don't do that for me. It's up for you to do these things. It's, well, we're not doing these things, and there might be a reason. That reason might be because we're out of ideas, or maybe you don't feel like you know me enough to know if I want to try something new. So why don't we sit down and pick something? Why don't we work together to resolve this? Let's have a moment where we can go through different ideas and different things that we want to try out and make a list and do these things. Because at the end of the day, the spark will always get to a point where it starts to fade because nothing is new anymore. And even if you do start injecting new things and new experiences and everything like that, it's still going to hit that wall. Because you're going to start to feel like, if you're the partner who's doing all the work, that I'm doing all of this and this person isn't doing jack. Or if you're the person receiving it all, you start to think, well, oh, well, they're planning everything. Like, I don't get any say. You're going to look for things because it's just a natural progression of the relationship. You're always going to hit the wall. Just like at your job. When you start off the job, everything's amazing, everything's new, there's so much to learn, and you're just in a state where you're just constantly taking in that stimulation. But then you get good at your job. You get very, very comfortable in your routine. You come in, you know what time you start, you know that you have your morning coffee before you do anything, you know that you make the important phone calls at the beginning. Your job becomes routine. And when it becomes routine, it becomes boring. And what happens when it becomes boring? You start going on your phone all the time. You start getting distracted. Your quality of work will decrease, usually, not all the time, but usually, because you don't give it the same attention that you gave it before. And that's what happens in a relationship. It gets to a point where it gets dull. And you, at your job, can decide, do I take on more responsibility? Do I change the way that I do this job so I can learn it from a different avenue or a different angle? Or do I go and start really pushing into training and thinking of maybe expanding on here? I like this job and I like to stay in this company, but maybe learning more is going to be beneficial to me. Now, you can sit there and hope that somebody's going to come and just put that in your lap, or you got to be proactive and go out and do these things. And this is where we come into that same existence where we just decide it's not me, it's them, and they've got to do better. If you know that your partner is not the best at like planning dates, that's like their thing. They're not really planners, or they don't really go out, or they don't really do stuff. How do you not expect them to step into that role and just do that? How do you expect them to know what you like? A lot of the times when they're not planning things is because maybe they're just not into the same things. Maybe they think you guys are into different things, and because you don't communicate about what you're into, this now becomes stressful for them. And you as your partner have to understand that. You have to understand, well, this is going to cause this person stress because they're trying to figure out something that I can easily express to them, but I'm not doing that. I'm leaving it up to them to figure it out because you don't want to deal with the stress of it yourself. It's very simple to be like, hey, listen, you want to go do this? Cool, let's go. And it's usually the partner that's just always up for everything who winds up in that position, because you can easily come to them and say, hey, let's go have a snowball fight. And they'll be like, yeah, let's go. Cool. I'm down. But you don't. You leave it up to them to now be like, no, come up with something, and come up with something that I'm going to like. Because if I don't enjoy it, I'm not going to have a good time. And if I don't have a good time, then the relationship is going to suffer. You have to understand that this is work. And this is teamwork. Both of you have to be invested. Both of you have to be putting effort. Sometimes it's going to be you putting more effort than them. Sometimes it's them putting more effort than you. But you both have to show up, and you both have to be there. And you both have to be able to not so much put in 50-50 effort, because it's never truly going to be 50-50. At times it's going to be 60-40 one way, and then 60-40 another way. You both have different skills. You both have different outlooks. You both have different mentalities. And to have an effective relationship, you have to both be willing to come in there and say, I'm going to put all my skills towards this, and you're going to put all your skills towards this. And that is where true love comes from, because you're giving it your all, because you believe that that person is for you. Now, I get it. This is a scary ass concept, because you could put everything in and get nothing in return, or you go all in and you wind up getting hurt. And this comes into the very last part of why I think we don't quite understand these things ourselves. A lot of us have not taken the time to heal. A lot of us have gone through really, really crappy situations in our lives. We've been cheated on. We've been abused. We've been abandoned. We've been treated like dirt. And it happens. And it hurts. I've been through a lot of these myself, so I'm speaking from experience. It freaking sucks to go through something like that. It sucks to feel like you weren't enough. It sucks to feel like you were consistently told that you were the problem in the relationship. It sucks to feel like a second-class citizen in a relationship. And it sucks, especially when you're putting 100%, that person's putting maybe 20, 30, 40%. And you obviously see that the value differential is not the same. But if you are afraid to put yourself out there again, then having a successful relationship is going to be hard. And finding a true love relationship is going to be very difficult. Because you're always going to be hitting that wall. It's going to happen. It's going to happen whether you both like each other or you don't like each other. You're going to hit that wall where you have to make the decision of, I'm seeing all these things that I don't necessarily like. Do I work with this person to resolve them, or do I just leave? Which one's easier? Is it worth it toughing this out? Is it worth it putting myself out there to potentially get hurt again? And most of us, that's the answer for us. No, I'd rather just cut. I'd rather just leave. It's easier. We take the easy way out. And one of the reasons that we do that is because we're not really taking in our true self. And I'll touch on this on another episode. True self versus your identity. Your true self is that person who wants to be loved. Your true self is that person who wants to feel important. You may not say it. You may be ashamed to say it. You may just kind of keep it to yourself, but when you're put in those situations where you go through healing and you go through all the negativity and all the hurt that happens to you, and you come to an acceptance that, hey, listen, these things have happened to me. Some of it they had a hand to play in, some of them I had a hand to play in, but it happened, and it is what it is, and I've learned from it. You start to expose what your true self is like. Some of us are people who, as much as we'll sit there and we'll think like, oh, as soon as I see a red flag, I'm gone. If this person ever cheated on me, I would do this. If this ever happened to me, I would do that. But then you get in that situation and you start to think, well, am I doing the right thing? Will I just up and leave? Will I be willing to go through this again? And those things start to contrast with your identity. And your identity is different. Your identity is who you see yourself as. Your identity is, this is the person I need to be in order to overcome the things that I've come, or justify the things that I've become. Because your true self is that person who just wants to be loved and be able to openly give love to another person. But your identity is that person who's like, I can't trust anybody, and I would rather be alone than put myself in a situation to be hurt again. And as you heal and as you go through the motions, you start to realize that I've already hit the ground before. So if I hit it again, I'll be fine. I've already been there. I already understand what it's like. I already know kind of an idea of what I'm going to go through. So you don't fear it as much. When you're living in that identity, you're terrified. You don't want to go to that place again. That's not for you. And you know that, and you get it. And you let that control your life, because when you start to feel any type of way, when you come across that person who's going to give you all those things that you say you want, it's going to scare the living daylights out of you, and you won't want to go there. You're going to start self-sabotaging your relationship. You're going to start being a very out of character person, very contra to what you actually want. You see this a lot in situations where you'll talk to this person, you'll get to know them, and they'll tell you all of these things that they want in a relationship and all these dynamics that they think are amazing. And then when you start giving them these things, they start to find random things to complain about. They'll start complaining about, well, you know what, I don't know if I can have a relationship with you because you're not as clean as I am, or because you put on your socks the wrong way. They'll start creating little random things. They'll start creating fights. They'll start making things a problem because they're afraid, because they're getting to that point where that true self is getting exposed. And they don't want anybody to see that, because the last time they did that, they got hurt. So you, as that person in that situation, you have to understand one of two things. If you feel like you are not getting the reciprocity that you require in the relationship, ask for it. And if they're not capable of giving you that, you have to determine if they're just unwilling to do so, or they just need time to get to that point. There is no cookie cutter answer for these things. There's nothing that I can come out and say like, oh, if this happens, do this. And if this happens, do that. That doesn't work, because everybody's different and our tolerances are different. Our experiences are different. You know yourself better than anybody else. If you're willing to put yourself out there and risk yourself getting hurt, that is the only way you will ever be able to find real love, because that is the only way you will actually be willing to put the work in to attain it. If it's not something you want, it's not something you're going to get. Be open to change and be open to true love, because it does exist. It's just going to take a lot of work. With that, guys, I am out. Thank you for spending your time with me. I hope this helps somebody, and we have a lot more content coming out. So stay tuned. I got a couple episodes coming out the woodwork soon. So stay tuned. Tune in. I'll be here. With that, it's your boy Trey from the Stone Disclosure. Protect your heart.